In 50 years, an American spacecraft has reached the surface of the moon. A private lander from the company Intuitive Machines touched down this evening.
Welcome to the moon.
It was a nail-biter of a landing after it experienced technical problems earlier today. It was able to successfully touch down on the moon's southern end. No spacecraft has ever landed in that area.
Well, I guess let's start with this. I did a video probably not 6 months ago about India saying that they had landed on the south pole of the moon. This is the actual footage. I mean, they showed it at the time that this was going down, claiming that this was the actual footage. It got scrubbed really quick. But their big claim to fame here was, okay, we can land on the south pole of the moon and there's ice, so we can use that to make hydrogen fuel to go to Mars. Oh yeah? Why don't you go down to Antarctica and build a base down there and use the ice to go to the moon from there? It's actually supposed to be colder on the moon than down there. But why don't you just make me some hydrogen fuel and power anything? Now, I know it can be done. I saw the guy that disappeared for making a water power car. But if water's all you need for fuel, guess what? The Earth is 3/4 water. And this footage actually looks good compared to the footage we got from what supposedly happened Friday. That was the Odysseus moon mission, and well, let's listen in.
But then, finally, a faint signal.
We can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
Yeah, that was it for our big moon landing. You know, in 1969, they could make a phone call to the president as they were stepping off of the lunar lander, but now we can't get a Polaroid. Okay, a digital Polaroid. And I know, guys, I'll get back to the flat Earth table. I can hear you furiously typing away. So there was a little bit of a snag.
We came down with, like I said, about 6 miles an hour this way and about 2 miles an hour this way, and caught a foot in the surface, and the lander has tipped like this. And we believe this is the orientation of the lander on the moon.
Quick, call in Scott Manley and all of the explainators. People in the comments were having problems with this too. Yeah, we can land on Mars, but you can't land on the moon. And don't forget, we actually flew a drone on Mars. Now, I actually like this channel. He's just a science dork. I'm a science dork. He's not a professional NASA shill. But they claim to be flying a drone on Mars with 1% of Earth's atmosphere. So he attempted to fly a drone in a vacuum, and guess what happened? It didn't fly. And his conclusion, though, I was thoroughly disappointed. He said, well, that just makes it that much more impressive that they were able to do it. No, the conclusion is that they didn't do it, sir. But let's hear a little bit more explaining.
We thought we were upright, and the reason was that the tanks were reading, this is the X direction, and the tanks were reading gravity on the moon. At the fill levels, there were still residuals in the tank, and we saw those measurements in the X direction.
Okay, first off, you're telling me that you're using a liquid fuel in space? I mean, is this just a lawnmower motor? Flip your lawnmower upside down and tell me how good it works. I mean, that's what he just said, that we have a tank reading. And then he said that, well, it turns out that telemetry was stale. Oh, so you're reading a half a tank of gas when you're not even yet on the surface of the moon with zero gravity whatsoever? So I took the liberty of checking the current orientation of the solar system, and you see how the moon is looping around there? So this is how that would have had to have worked. They would have had to have launched out in front of the moon there and waited for it to swing around Earth and come up and splat, bug on the windshield at 66,000 miles an hour. But we somehow managed to do this 6 times between 1969 and 72 and had comms, live comms. Just so you know, this was part of this Cold War scam that fleeced Americans and Ruscolians out of trillions of dollars. Tucker did an interview the other day with a guy that actually said some of the most profound things about the world that basically got ignored. By 2016, internet and social media had gotten so big that it almost destroyed the last 70 years of NATO and their whole plans. They spent all of that time making Zarputnikov the boogeyman, and they have to have that boogeyman. You can't have the Western world chatting with these people online and realizing that they're not demons. So they had to divide up the internet. And now for the Discworlders, yeah, they're messing with you now. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm still not on your side with this. There was a time when I would have agreed with you 100%, but I kept doing my own research and nope, sorry. And I'm going to show you what the final nail in the coffin was for me. Give credit to Dominic Jobert for this footage here. And I actually waited for years for a comment to come in because I realized that that would tell the actual tale. So where I was at, night after night, you could see Comet Neowise right after sunset. And then the next night, it would be a little bit further over. And you can see that it's staying stationary to the stars in the background. But night after night, it kept basically the same proximity to the sun, just slowly inching over a little bit night after night. Now, I can't do fancy graphics, so I'm just going to show you like this. Okay, so here's the sun. And the sun is going around our square Earth here, okay? Comet Neowise came from outside, and it would have had to have followed this trajectory way out here. Just imagine this is 100 million miles away, and circled around with the sun. And then got closer and closer and closer to where we watch it in the evening sky for days and days and days, and it's spinning around with the sun, and then it starts getting farther out again and going away. Now, I mean, just on a physics standpoint, it would be going slower as it's at its closest, and then it would have to speed up to keep the same proximity from us looking at it from Earth to stay right there in line with the sun, just off balance. So if the Earth is stationary and the sun is spinning around it, that's what would have had to have happened. Because from our point of view on Earth, it stayed the same hand width distance. If you held your hand out, it'd be about the width of your hand away from the sun. And it did that night after night after night. So if the sun is moving around us, then that comet would have had to have come around in a swirly pattern, following the sun around and around and around, and then got further away, making a larger diameter arc. What actually makes a lot more sense is that it just came in and swung around the sun and took off. And nobody wanted to address what I showed last time on this subject, that this is what you see if you take a mock sun and walk level away from the camera and keep going. It keeps getting smaller and smaller. And I mean, this is just basic life, guys. I mean, watch a car drive away. The taillights get smaller and smaller and smaller till you can't see them anymore if you had a long enough surface. This does not match up with a sunset that we watch. Now, if you take your sun and start 4 feet above the camera and keep a 4-foot arc going down and down and down until it goes under the table, that's what you see. That matches a sunset exactly. If you ever see the sun doing this, just going so far away that you can't see it anymore, well, then it's probably time to worry about things. But this does not happen every night. Nor does a sunrise look anything like this. Does it start out as a little blip of light and then come at you and get bigger and bigger? And the sun's the same size at noon as it is at sunset. But does it get bigger and bigger and bigger and then go overhead? No. So y'all can be mad at me all you want, but just like the Tartaria thing, I don't care how many people repeat the same thing over and over. If it doesn't make sense to me, I am not going to endorse it. That whole subject with the little CIA spokesboy got in everybody's newsfeed because everybody realized that they're faking all this space stuff. And so the conversation was no longer about the trillions of dollars that they spend on this fake space stuff, and the conversation turned to the shape of the Earth. Meanwhile, they literally shut NASA down and handed over the whole entire space agency to a private billionaire, Elon. That would be like shutting down our Marine Corps and giving it to Willie G. They knew they were busted. They had to have a cover story, a diversion, and that's what happened. Static.